Hello, everyone. It is just about 2 a.m. right now, so I thought I would try something a little bit different from my usual since I've been away from streams for quite a while at this point. I haven't been back to streaming just yet as I record this, but hopefully soon I'll be back on the airwaves once again. But in the meantime, I had quite the hankering after listening to some of Metroid Prime's soundtrack again. And since we've already explored the remastered version on the Switch prior to this, I figured it would be a fun experience to travel through the sequel. Not remastered yet. I am really hoping that they do bring out a Metroid Prime 2 remastered because I would so love to see this game in even higher fidelity. It could be a while though, because Metroid Prime 2 is very expansive compared to the first game. Now there are a couple of things that are going to be a little bit different beyond just me playing the game as it is. A few things I want to cover immediately. First of all, for anyone who is familiar with how the game generally looks, you might notice that things look a little bit more of a higher resolution. So in coming back to this game, I figured it might be nice since I have a stronger computer now than I did, years prior, to actually put some HD mods into this. So I have one that has 3 separate packs for Metroid Prime 1, 2, and 3. So that's why things look a little bit more upscaled in their resolution than they would be natively. Secondly, that also means that I am playing a slightly modified version of the game that allows me to use mouse and keyboard controls in lieu of the standard GameCube, or in this case, since I'm playing the trilogy version, the Wii Remote and Nunchuck. So ultimately, it's not too much different mechanically than having the pointer on screen in certain ways. But there is one other thing I wanted to bring to attention that is more so relevant to what I have with me. Well, I guess there are a couple more things. Let's start walking a little bit, and I'll explain on the way. So this is all tutorial anyway. So just take in the ambiance of our brand new world. Since I was going with a bit more of a, I guess we'll see how chill it gets. Because, this game being an action first-person shooter, it might get a little intense at some parts. But ultimately, I aim to keep my energy at a generally more chill level. That is partially due to it being 2 a.m. right now. What better time to play a 2 game than at 2 in the morning? But that is also why I don't have my usual camera up right now. Just wanted to really settle into the chill atmosphere without a bright blue avatar on screen. I think it might be an interesting change of pace. This'll kind of be like a bit of an experiment, I guess. But it's with a game that I love playing and have not played for quite a while. Yeah, so I was listening to the Metroid Prime series of soundtracks, and I just felt so inclined to play one of the games again. And since I'd been playing a bunch of Metroid Prime more recently and realized I hadn't played Metroid Prime 2 in quite a long time, I don't know how many years it's been since I last played this, I figured that this would be a good step to playing the whole trilogy, since we do finally have confirmation of Metroid Prime 4 being on the way. Very excited for that as well. Give ourselves a little map, so that's pretty nice. Not gonna worry about that right now, because do we really need maps where we're going? Because I've got one more little IRL surprise for everyone. I have only ever had 2 strategy guides, like physical strategy guides, in my entire life. One of them is for the Game Boy Advance port of Super Mario World, otherwise known as Super Mario Advance 2. That was a game that I played quite a lot when I was younger and still enjoy to this day. Probably one of the first games I ever did, you know, quote-unquote speed running. The other is for this game. So I actually have next to me right now the official Nintendo Power Strategy Guide for Metroid Prime 2 Echoes. It's the official Nintendo Player's Guide. So you know, it's gonna be thorough and comprehensive. And maybe just have a little itty-bitty smattering of quirky attitude. Also, we have our first creatures, the Worker Splinter. Yeah, so this guide goes into, like, it's not just a step-by-step guide from the beginning. It also details the controls for all of Samus's different forms, like her regular, her morph ball. It goes over the different visors and weapons and abilities that you'll get as you play through. It's got stuff like this in the very beginning. You begin the game with the combat visor and the scan visor, and you'll acquire additional visors throughout your adventure. You can learn everything you need to know about yourself, your health, and the surrounding environs from these handy little gadgets. So it's got some stuff like that in there. Lots of fun. Also, I did say this was going to be a bit more of a chill series, but at the same time, because I have the strategy guide next to me, and I do intend to go for all items, I am playing this on hyper mode difficulty, which is the highest difficulty available in the trilogy version. Now it's time to see the influence of the darkness. So now we have Dark Troopers. The Galactic Federation soldiers here that have passed on are being, well, essentially possessed by dark energy of some kind that we have yet to realize the full nature of. But yes, combat is going to be a very treacherous endeavor, especially early on before we really have access to our full arsenal and some health. With only one energy tank and 5 missiles to our name, playing it cautious in the early game is going to be important. But yeah, as we gather more of the sort of key items, like the major upgrades, I'm not going to go over all the little stuff, reading the whole guide note for note, but I will provide a link in the description to an Internet Archive version of the guide if you want to read it for yourself. I took a look at it, looked through the first few pages of it, and it looks to be the same one that I have. So, for anyone who's curious, y'all can read along for yourselves as well and kind of see where I'm pulling from stuff as I flip through here. Fun thing about the controls page, it actually shows the Nintendo GameCube Wavebird controller, which is like it's like a even chunkier GameCube controller that is wireless. I think I've only ever seen one Wavebird controller in my entire life in person. But for now, I'm gonna bring us up to the first section of the guide here. A platoon of Galactic Federation troopers has gone missing on Aether, and Samus Aran has been contracted to track them down. What began as a simple search and rescue op is about to become a lot more complicated. Hope the pay is good. If you had any wondering about what kind of quirky attitude I was referencing earlier, that's what I mean. Just little stuff like, hope the pay is good. Thankfully, even on hyper mode, a fully charged shot takes these guys out. No problem. Now, I'll be going for 100% items, but I will not be going for 100% scans because we would be here all day. 100% scans, that's already kind of an undertaking in Metroid Prime. If you're not, like, prepared for it. Considering the scope of this game and how many missable scans there are, this game is definitely a lot more, you know, of an undertaking. But here's our introduction to the first section of the guide, or at least the first segment within the Agon Wastes section. The missile launcher. The board is set, the pieces are in motion, and it's time to go get the missile launcher. What's that, you say? You already have a missile launcher? Welcome to the world of Metroid, friend. For anyone who has not played a Metroid game before, a lot of the games have a little bit of a early gimmick. It's happened more so as the titles became more modern. The earlier games you would start with, you know, your basic equipment and no upgrades whatsoever. But something that the series kind of evolved into as it progressed was that you do start with a few things at the beginning. Like you can see on the right there, we have 5 missiles. We have our space jump, so we can jump twice without touching the ground. We have our morph ball bombs. And we have the morph ball. So we do actually start with some stuff in the Prime games, which is different from, say, the original Metroid for the NES, where you just start with the beam. You've just got your regular shot and the ability to jump once, and that's about it. Everything else, you gotta go find it. Now, we've seen a mysterious figure enter an unknown dimensional anomaly that seems to be a dimensional rift with an unknown target destination. That figure did look somewhat familiar. You better go after them and see what's on the other side. Seems like we might be crashing the party a little bit. I'll say one thing. Whoever this Dark Samus is, as they appear to be, they certainly know what they're doing. Well, they certainly know what they're doing. Because whatever this atmosphere is, we cannot survive in it. Just being in that world hurts us. Not to mention the creatures that just dogpile us. I mean, we're alive at the very least. But at what cost? So, some of our gear has been stolen. We don't have our space jump anymore, so no double jumps. We didn't even get to use the grapple beam, but we lost it. We don't have our morph ball boost. No power bombs. No more missile launcher. And no morph ball bombs. Everything else is fine. Unlike Metroid Prime, we actually get to keep the Varia suit. So we get to keep our nice big meaty shoulder pads. Thankfully that doesn't get taken away from us. But oh darn, this tunnel cap. If only we had our morph ball bombs, we could get through there. Oh well, we'll just have to make do without. Them off. And we'll go tap our first save station. Might as well. So yeah, that was definitely not a fun place to be. So on the other side of that portal was what is called dark aether. Essentially, this planet is basically split into two separate versions of itself. We have the regular light world version that we're in right now, and then there is a almost but not quite 100% mirrored version of this world, but in total darkness, and that's dark aether. That's where we got attacked by those inky creatures. Just move some industrial winches around here. We'll be seeing more of dark aether a little bit later. We won't be making our way back there just yet. Oh, hey guys, how's it going down there? These guys are not worker splinters, they are just straight up splinters. They are predatory hunters. So we want to make sure not to get caught off guard by those guys. But yeah, another reason that I wanted to play through Metroid Prime 2 again like this is because I'd played through the Metroid Prime 1 randomizer several times, but without knowing basically any of the speedrun tech, there's only really so much that I can shake things up in terms of, you know, the randomized experience. At least if I want to guarantee that there is a path to completion with my skill set, which is, I guess, by the mechanics, very, you know, casual. I don't know how to do basically any of the speedrun tech that, you know, lets sequence skipping happen, which would let me, you know, bypass the requirement of certain items to get to different areas. Metroid Prime 2, on the other hand, with it being a much larger area and more stuff to find, I think there's a lot more room for even a casual randomizer to be, you know, to be able to shake things up in a more substantial and varied way. More winches. Oh. That looks like a workplace accident waiting to happen. And there you go. Workplace accident becomes a workplace opportunity. Denzium. We'll need power bombs for that. Let's see here. So we can open our way forward, but the way back is now blocked. And there is currently no way for us to backtrack because these gates are composed of denzium. So we'll need power bombs for these things too. So we're not going back that way. Yeah, looking at the guide for a moment here, they go through, like, describing the actual text, like, okay, use your scan visor to locate a red box, then scan it to raise the gate on the far end of the chamber. Doing so will drop a gate behind you. It's a one-way trip from this point forward. And that's describing the room that we were just in. But section, just that little section on its own, is called There's No Going Back Now. So each step, each room that they cover has its own little, like, title to it right underneath the room name. I would suggest taking a look at the guide for yourself too with that internet archive. I think it's pretty interesting because they also have in the overview showing like the path that you'll take on the map to get to the next major upgrade. They actually have, you know, like the 3D maps all highlighted and labeled and stuff. They even go through and they'll list all the logbook entries for each room as you pass through. It's very comprehensive. Ooh, automated distress signal. Now that sounds useful. Yeah, let's do that. Also, it's really cool how the sky is like pulsing purple because of the ambient influence of dark aether existing, which is also the atmospheric interference that causes the transmission to fail. So yeah, basically, unless we could find a way to potentially boost the signal to pass through dark aether's atmospheric interference, or, you know, somehow get rid of dark aether entirely, we're not getting a distress signal out. What are the odds of getting rid of an entire copy of a planet? It's not something that's just casually done. The return of the automated turret defense systems. Oh, I guess I went too far away. There we go. Go through here, scan this, and gate may operate in an erratic fashion. Yeah, that gate is not quite working properly. You just have to squeeze under. And now that we're through, once again, no way back. Not like we'd have anywhere to go back to. Our way back to where we were was a dead end anyway because of the gates before that. Now, I'm curious if this is fixed in the trilogy version. Because I know there's something you can do. I don't know if you can do it in the trilogy version. I'm also not using a controller, which you usually use for this. But one of the speedrun tricks is that you can use this kind of vaguely boot-shaped rock, and you can use the fact that it's a slope to get some more height out of your jump. And that gives you a little bit of extra height. You can see I'm going a little bit higher than my regular jump. Regular jump only takes me up to here. But jumping up the slope gives me almost enough height to clear it. Kind of wonder if I could get up there. Because if you're able to do this, I don't know if they fixed, like I said, I don't know if they fixed it in the trilogy version, but it's definitely possible in the GameCube version of this game. I know I've done it before. It's probably one of the simpler tricks to understand and execute. But if you can get up and over inside of that yellow box, you can kind of see poking over the other side there. That's where the missile launcher is. You can actually go over and collect it, and then there's a cutscene trigger up ahead here, and that will respawn the missile launcher. So you can actually get the missile launcher twice and get more item completion percentage than would normally be possible. It's kind of a fun little thing. I don't remember if that has any specific... I feel like there's gotta be a reason that it's used in the speedrun. But it's been so long since I've even watched a speedrun of this game that I don't remember what its purpose is. I just know that that is a an exploit that exists. While on patrol in the Dasha system, we found a frigate. The enemy frigate was crippled, and it crashed on the planet Aether. We followed the pirates, but our ship was damaged by a storm as we entered Aether's atmosphere. Sounds familiar. Oh. Don't worry about it, it's just the camera feed acting up. Heavy magnetic activity dealt with our comm systems. On landing, we split into 2 units. I can't read that fast. Each unit was doing fine, no problems. Till they appeared. Now that sounds like we got a perimeter breach. Oh yeah, that's a lot of those inky boys. That's even more than we were dealing with when we went through the portal. And they're just here in the light world. I mean, they put up a good fight. There's only so much they can do against just the sheer number of them. And that was the distress signal that we picked up, bringing us here in the first place. But now we have an ordnance crate here. Technical data suggests the presence of a personal weapon system within this crate. Use of heavy force required to eliminate the crate. Alright guys, it's time to eliminate the crate. Let's go. There it is. The missile launcher. We got our 5 missiles back. Let's see here. Let's see if I can remember how I did my key bindings. Is it this one? This is the one, okay. So I wanted to go... I wanted to go back now that we've picked up the missile launcher as an item. You can go back to the missile systems section. Missiles are long-range weapons that pack a medium amount of force. By the end of the game, you'll own a ton of them, so you'll want to master them. So free-firing missiles on their own, they won't really do a whole lot of good unless you're really good at leading and predicting your shots. But if you're locked onto a target, then your missiles also lock on, and they have some tracking to them. Like so. I want to get one of them to hop at me and then fire after them. See, you can see it has some tracking to it. It doesn't just go straight at the wall. So missiles will definitely come in handy, considering how much damage everything in this difficulty takes. Definitely being aware of my positioning in combat is going to be very important. Make sure I don't get cornered or ambushed. Let's head in here and grab another map station. Just in case we feel like having that. So now we have even more map. And we've got a couple of different door lock colors on here, besides our regular blue ones that can just be opened with any weapon. We've got the yellow one over there, just ahead and to the right of us. That is for power bombs. We will not be opening that door for quite a while. The red door over ahead of us and slightly to the left, though, that is where our missiles come in handy. So we'll just make our way over there. Power up this kinetic orb cannon. And we'll just take a nice gentle hop over. The other side, where we can get up to this ledge that I was trying to slope jump up to. So if you can get up here and then drop down to where the missile launcher crate is, you can open it, grab the missile launcher, and then come back here and then grab the missile launcher again after either watching or skipping that cutscene. I can't remember if you could skip it on the first playthrough. I think I know what the use of it is in a speedrun, though. It occurred to me. Each time you pick up the missile launcher, it gives you 5 more missiles. So being able to grab it twice means you have 10 missiles at that point instead of the regular 5. So having twice as many missiles right off the bat, I could see how that would be useful for being able to just power through some enemies. Also, if you thought that the War Wasps were only native, or they were only on Talon 4, now they're here too. Never really get away from the War Wasp. We got ourselves another kinetic orb cannon to take another ride up here. And since we grabbed the missile launcher, we are now on to the next section of the guide, which is introduced as such. Now that the grim fate of the Galactic Federation troopers is known, Samus can continue on her way. But the simple mission will become a lot more complicated when the Luminoth enter the picture. Bombs will definitely help. So we know what we're going for next. More wasp hives can be taken out with a missile. Helps to keep things a little bit more reasonable. There's a hive up there I can't really fully see from here. But this wall is structurally unsound. Explosive damage can weaken it, but not break it entirely. Now I think we'll need something small, spherical, and metallic to really get that wall to come crumbling down. What could we possibly use? Bingo. Now deal with these guys. And now that I can see the hive, I can get rid of it. Perfect. Hopefully that means no more interference. Also, you can see something a little unusual over there on that ledge with that hive I just blew up. I don't know. Yeah, we can scan it from here. I'm just gonna make a few hops to grab it. This rift portal is inactive. The portal field can be energized with dark energy. Walk into an energized portal to transport to dark aether. So we're gonna need to be able to dispense dark energy. And since there are dark portals leading to the dark world, there are likely the same thing in the dark world, but light portals leading back to the regular light world like we're in right now. Also, new creature here. Definitely not one that we've seen before. Perhaps later we'll find out what exactly they are. Good old hologram elevators. Some things never change. Yeah, as far as like the actual game itself, stepping outside of just the going from point A to point B here. Sand bats. Now, going outside of just the pure mechanical gameplay part of things, one thing that is pretty interesting about Metroid Prime 2 compared to the first game. Metroid Prime 2 doesn't have quite as many music tracks that I feel like are quite as, catchy and memorable as those of Metroid Prime. Metroid Prime 1 had a lot of iconic, singable tracks, for sure. From Magmore Caverns to Phendrana Drifts. Prime 1's got some real good music. The Metroid Prime 2, definitely in terms of theming, in case it might not already be apparent, is a lot more dark, brooding, and ambient. Metroid Prime 2 doesn't emphasize a whole lot of the melodic nature of music. It's definitely more along the lines of a soundscape. It gives a general vibe to each area. But when it comes to important moments, like the one we're about to face here, which is one of the first missable scans of the game, by the way, they definitely do kick up the melody of the music when the time is right. So now we're seeing in real time how regular splinters are getting turned into these dark splinters. So we've seen this darkness energy enacting its subjugating power in real time. And yeah, these guys are pretty tanky. Yeah, I definitely wanted to make sure, since we're going to be getting all the items, I didn't know, since I haven't played the trilogy version of these games very much. I usually play the original, like, GameCube versions of them, because that's what I grew up with. I'm not entirely familiar with how the difficulty scaling is different. Now here's a missable scan. If you want all scans, grab this scan of the Alpha Splinter pretty much immediately as soon as they spawn in here. Because before too long, this is the only one in the entire game. And soon enough, that same dark energy that's been that was working its magic on the splinters earlier is gonna come riding back into town. Causing some problems. And here it is. So once this happens, the Alpha Splinter is no longer scannable because it becomes the Dark Alpha Splinter. So that is your only chance to get the Alpha Splinter scan. So stuff like that is part of why I'm not going for 100% scans. Honestly, the Dark Alpha Splinter is easier than the Alpha Splinter, because its attack pattern is just more predictable, and it's not taking up the center of the arena constantly. But you see how much health this thing has on hyper mode. So yeah, when I was looking into playing these games again on the trilogy version, I did see people saying that in terms of difficulty, Metroid Prime Trilogy's veteran difficulty, which I guess you could call hard mode, was roughly equivalent to the difficulty of normal mode on the GameCube versions of the games. So I figured, since I'm pretty familiar with these games, that even just playing them on their, like, GameCube difficulty would not be quite what I was looking for. Figured I'd challenge myself a little bit more. I have also been playing a lot of Black Myth Wukong recently, since that released. Had a ton of fun with that game, still playing through it right now. I won't say much about it because that's not why we're here. But just to say, I've really got that mindset of dodging enemy attacks being a really important thing. I've got that really kind of locked into my brain right now. So just casually dodging these attacks is borderline second nature because I've been playing a game that also emphasizes dodging. But yeah, unknown technology. Let's pick it up. We like unknown technology. Seems stable. System alert. Unknown item acquired. Alien technology has bonded to armor systems. But don't worry. Don't worry, Microsoft's antivirus says no threats. We're all good. So now the door that we came through is now blocked by this interesting looking gate. Unfortunately, we can't translate the alien text, so we have no idea how to actually interact with this door because we need more updated translation files. So, where on an alien planet would one go to find translator files? That is an excellent question, and one that may be answered sooner than you think. Hello there, stranger. Do not be afraid. I am Eumos, Sentinel of the Luminoth. Please listen and hear of our world's peril. It's lore time. Long ago, a cosmic object fell to our planet, Aether, exploding with great force. A rift was torn in time and space, and a strange power flowed over the world. Where once there was one Aether, there were now two. One of light and one of shadow, each existing in its own dimension. It was the end of peace on Aether, for a new race was born that day on the Dark World. One filled with hate and terrible power. They are the Ing. Also really impressive that he can just make holograms out of his hands like that. The Ing are creatures of shadow and darkness, knowing nothing of peace or mercy. For decades, we stood against them, yet we now lie on the verge of defeat. When Dark Aether was born, our planetary energy was divided, half for our world, and half for theirs. Should one world gain control of this energy, the other will perish. Before you arrived, the Ing had stolen a device from us. One that collects planetary energy. With it, they have weakened our planet to the verge of collapse. But fortune smiled upon us this day, for the energy transfer module is now bonded to you. With it, you can help us. Help us restore our world. You're our only hope, Samus. Should we fall, The Ing will look to the stars for new planets to ravage and conquer. Your species could be their next victims. The Ing have taken our energy to 3 temples on Dark Aether. Find these temples and transfer the energy from them to our own. I've updated your map system with the location of another temple. There is knowledge there that can help you on your way. I have also updated your translator module. You can now access devices and doors coded with violet holograms. Many lands are now open to you. Prepare well for your journey. The Ing now know you possess the energy transfer module. They will try to recover it at all costs. Return to me once you have restored the energy to a temple. I will aid you as I can. May the light of Aether shine upon you. He even gives us a nice little energy refill. How kind of him. So now we have access to Metroid Prime 2's version of the Chozo lore. But now, since we're dealing with the Luminoth, we have Luminoth lore. And they're on these fancy projectors. So that's fun. So now, we have our new heading. Violet Translator will let us go through one of the 3 doors down here. And that will be our path forward. Over here. Pathway to Agon. Light Flyer. They're kind of like those weird-looking molecule dudes from Metroid Prime. Yeah, one of the reasons I opted to play the trilogy version of Metroid Prime 2, once we have our bombs, something that the trilogy versions of the game has that the original does not, is the spring ball, which basically lets you emulate the jump height you would get from doing a single bomb jump without having to use a bomb. You can just jump. It's a bomb jump without the bomb. Doesn't really change anything on a casual level other than being a nice little quality of life feature. So now we need to go find a temple, and that will give us more information on where we can go to find our first cache of energy to bring back to the light world. Now this place may look a little familiar. We have been here before. This is where we had our workplace opportunity. Now that we have missiles, we can go through that missile door right there. And ignore these guys because I don't need it. I don't need any of that nonsense. What I do need is an energy tank. We like our energy tanks. Survivability is going to be very important on the maximum difficulty that we're on here. Let's see if I can remember which button I have assigned to the map. Is it this one? This one, okay. Like I said, I've not played this in quite a while, so I have to remember which buttons do what when translated to a keyboard. So I think we can backtrack to the industrial site. There was a violet hologram. So I'm just gonna skip around these guys. Don't even worry about it. It's fine. See? No problem. Nobody's gotta bother nobody. Beyond this door, the path to the Aegon Wastes lies. Once fertile plains, now sands, scorched and ruined by war. May life thrive there again one day. And onward we go. Excuse me. Now before we go down the elevator, we've got our first missile expansion. Now we have twice as many missiles as we did before. And now we have access to the Aegon Wastes. So let's go have a fun time in the wasteland. Where everything is gonna be sunshine and rainbows. Also, there are these Lumites, which are relatively harmless in shadow. But if they're out in open, open lit areas, they become invisible and way stronger. And they can use the light energy that they photosynthesize to shoot at me, which is less than ideal for my survival. Welcome to the Aegon Wastes. First things first, new type of enemy. We've got Worm. Behold. Worm. Spitting Worm. Double-sided Spitting Worm. Both ends have a weak spot. Yeah, that took a lot of shots, huh? That gives you an idea of how tanky the enemies are going to be moving forward. We're definitely in for a patience is key type of run. Which, you know, kind of works with the more chilled out vibe I was aiming for here. But I think that will be a good place to put a wrap on episode 1 here. The next time we come back here, I'll have taken a bit more of a look at the guide. I just dug it out like maybe a couple hours before starting recording here. So I haven't really had a chance to look through the entire thing. So I'll take a glance through, see if there's any fun, interesting tidbits from stuff we've already covered, and stuff coming up, because I'm not worried about spoilers for myself. I've already played and beaten this game multiple times, so I don't think I'm really worried about spoilers. That's for sure. But hopefully you all enjoy this. I know I'm gonna have a lot of fun playing through this again. And playing on the harder difficulties like this, it's gonna force me to kind of take my time and really immerse myself in the world and just really get to experience each area for a little bit longer. I'm not just kind of, guns blazing, just dashing through everything, blowing everything up in like one missile. It'll kind of make me take my time a little bit more. We'll get to enjoy the ambient soundtrack for even longer. It's a good soundtrack. It may not have as many singable music pieces to it, but it definitely does serve its purpose very well. And there are some very interesting soundscapes if you ever take some time to just listen to the music on its own. But don't worry, there may be more ambient tracks to this game than there were in Metroid Prime 1, but there are still some very, very good, melodically based songs later. And believe me, you'll know them when you hear them. But thank you all for being here and joining this, a little bit more experimental compared to what I usually do. I haven't really done like let's play style content for a long time. I mean, if you go back like way back on the channel here, you'll probably find some older stuff that's, maybe not quite as high quality, but it's where I started, so wouldn't be where I am without it. It was another step on the journey. I'm glad to have been able to take that journey, and I've been glad to be able to share stuff with all y'all out there. Hopefully, I will be able to start streaming again soon. I don't know what I will stream, but I have had a couple of ideas and suggestions brought to me, so I do have some options to consider. But it might be, I don't want to commit to anything just because I know I'm going to be kind of busy coming up to some things in the near future, so I'll still have to play it by ear. But if nothing else, I will for sure be able to, carve out some time to record, something for you guys to watch and hopefully enjoy. I know I'm gonna have a fun time with Metroid Prime, because it is a prime time every time. So thank you all for being here and hanging out. And until next time, take care, everyone.